Hi, my name's Dave Node, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I fell in love with technical theater in high school, and that led into mixing live sound at theme parks and doing lights and media at the time, which was 35mm slides. I also got to work on concerts for bands like Chicago and the B-52s. I started my first sound and lighting company back in 1986. Over the past decade and a half, I've had the privilege to work for mostly Fortune 100 end clients. I got to travel all over North America and Canada and Mexico and the Caribbean and even Hawaii. I find myself doing main screen switch, camera switch, running media servers, doing projection, all sorts of V1 positions. With a bachelor's degree in technical theater design, APS and ACE certification, Christie projection switching certifications, and recently Barco Level 2 certifications, I get to design and execute some really challenging and fun projects now. During the pandemic, I dove into the social media side of our industry. I've written articles on virtual solutions and facilitated owner sessions for Avixa. During one of my weekly Zoom panels and cocktail parties, I was reintroduced to Omar, who turned me on to AV Educate. It's been a pleasure to participate in the AV Educate Facebook page and to share my experience on the AV Tech Talks panel. I love supporting my industry colleagues with education and mentorship during these challenging times. Thanks for tuning.
Hi, my name is Ina Field and I'm from Bronx, New York. My work in AV includes mainly theatrical design and production. I have done some corporate production and AV work as well, but my main experience has been in the theater realm, which is interesting in our current age and time. I started in AV. Originally, I went to school for theater design, specifically scene design, and I ended up really enjoying lighting and sound design. And through that, I went into the production realm because I wanted to learn as much as possible about both. So I guess the best way you could say is I tripped into it. I'm on the show because I enjoy talking with other people with a lot of experience. I, up to a certain point, had been watching the seminars and trying to learn as much as possible on my own. But I like the interactivity that this program offers. And it's something that I really enjoy, and I hope more people have enjoyed it in that way as well. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of AV Educate's AV Tech Talks. I want to thank you for being here so much with us on the AV Tech Talks panel and on Facebook and everywhere else that you're watching us. So let's go into some of these house rules. We go live to Facebook every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can get notifications by when we go live by following the AV Educate page on Facebook, and while you're at it, join the AV Educate group. We'll drop the link in the comments. If you want to join the Zoom room by texting 407-504-7690. Again, that number is 407-504-7690. This number is only used for our panelists, and you won't receive any spam texts from this number, but you will receive weekly invites to the Zoom room. We're opening the rooms at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and we close the doors at 6:55. But keep in mind, panelists have to participate and have to keep their cameras on during the talk. Moving forward, due to the nature of streaming, there's a bit of a delay between when we say in our Zoom room and when it hits Facebook. So when making comments or asking questions, please provide some context. The user interface becomes more sleek, and this will lead to more meaningful engagement. Now, be the sharpshooter in the room. No questions are too basic. AV's mission is to help through knowledge. People move from stagehand to technician. Chances are that others have the same questions you do, so please ask away. At the same time, we welcome comments and input on the topic at hand. So don't hold back that great topic or that correction when one of us says something inaccurate. Now, we don't know everything. We are human. We don't claim to know everything. We may discuss or show the way we do something, and that doesn't mean it's the only way, but it's the way we found that works for one of us. If you have another way that's easier or yields better results, please share that with everybody. The whole session is a live Q&A. Our questions will be discussed, the topics for about an hour, and then we'll move to more about a round table discussion. There's no formal Q&A section. Again, the whole session is a live Q&A, so don't wait until the end to ask your questions or to make your comments. And finally, a shameless plug. Please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram so we can grow bigger and collaborate with even more amazing people just like you. That's all I got, guys. Back to the main room, back to Zoom, and back to you all in Facebook land. Again, thank you for being here, thank you for watching, and thanks for sharing.
And hello, welcome back to AV Tech Talks, presented by AV Educates. Tonight, we have an interesting show. We're going to be talking about Watchout and how it can be used to create great content on LED walls. Just a show of hands on the panel. Anybody used Watchout before? Excellent. Nina, can you tell us maybe a little bit about what you've done with Watchout?
Honestly, not too much. I was running it for a show a couple of years ago, mainly projections. So nothing as exciting as LED walls, but it's great because different from other queuing objects, just the idea that the timeline makes everything so much easier and how it processes information just makes it very useful.
Right, and it's it's a nice thing too that it a lot of people used to build them on their own Windows machines. Now Dataton kind of tries to push you to build them on your own hardware, but there's still a lot of those old self-built servers out in the wild. Who else did I see who had their hand up before? I think Dave, you had your hand up? You've used it?
Yeah, I spent about 2.5 years doing a bunch of corporate events, a string of them. It started on 100 by 15 foot, triple stack projection walls, and then it transitioned to LED walls in the last third or so of the run. So we were doing 120 foot by 18 foot high LED walls with 3 and 4 outputs of Watchout. Pretty fun.
That sounds really fun, actually. Jeff, you were saying something in our pre-show. Have you put one in the cloud yet?
Working on it, but haven't moved it all there yet. It's definitely on our checklist to verify how it works, how the licensing. Yeah, that's another part in the cloud. It's a little bit funky to deal with sometimes. Some of the other tools that we're using, they're tough to do licensing because they're to dongles and such. So that's always a challenge whenever you're looking at software applications, not just whether it works, but also how to license it and duplicate it, that licensing and stuff easier, and still stay within what you're supposed to be doing, not hacking it. But my experience with Watchout was many years ago. My real live experience many years ago. So I'm very interested to see how it's changed, other than just the promotional videos that we all get to see.
So I just heard that there's a market opportunity to create some sort of cloud-based dongle system. That's what I just heard from Jeff. I'm going to call it Nimbus. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do something with that. Maybe Rocco, I think you had told me you did a lot of Watchout before what you're currently doing. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
I've been building Watchout systems for years and years and years. I've been using it since version 4, I think. There's an article in Projection Lighting Sound News about my installation for Pips Island. We had a multi-room experience, all with independent Watchout systems that were all headless and were meant for doing shows back to back to back to back. I've done LED walls. I've done big projector blends. The biggest I think I did was 16 projector blend at the Kennedy Center with Watchout system. I've built my own systems. I've designed custom software solutions that work with Watchout, and I've done things with it that people didn't think was possible. Yeah, I used Watchout quite a bit.
I don't doubt that you've done things that people didn't think were possible with Watchout. And then lastly, I think Brent, you're another Watchout user?
We've used it mostly. We've done everything from widescreen projection, multi-timeline Watchout shows to now we use it mostly as backgrounds for backgrounds and content for our large LED walls in our virtual studios.
Great. So it sounds like we have a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, sorry, on this panel about Watchout, which makes it super exciting to welcome. And I'm again, if I butcher this, let me know. Srikanth. Srikanth. Perfect.
Yeah.
I left the N out. Dang. So we're going to welcome Srikanth to kick us off and talk about Watchout with LED walls. So take it away.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Srikanth from India. So, like, I got into this industry 5 years back. I was an IT guy, video editing guy for my dad's audiovisual company. So, then one day, like, I entered into an event. I saw this huge LED wall which was powered by Watchout, and I immediately got into it. So, I'm gonna start. Yeah, is my screen up?
Yes. Yep. We see it. Thank you.
Yeah. So in India, we use Watchout as like a E2 or a Spider because the event budget is very low in India, and like we use that we connect directly to the LED walls instead of going through a switcher and every input goes into Watchout. So that's how we use it. And who is this webinar for? It's for anyone who wants to manage screens, basically. So before getting into Watchout, it was hard for me to learn all the LED walls and processes because I learned Watchout first and then processes and then LED walls. So if you're trying to learn about Watchout, first learn about what gear are you using with, what pixels are you working with. I mean the processors and the pixel limits. And then a little bit knowledge about the video formats, Codex is really helpful if you want to get into Watchout as a Watchout operator. And then I don't know, I've read the Watchout user guide multiple times. Like even if you can miss out something while going through it, so I recommend you to read out the user guide 2 to 3 times to get what is really into it, because there are some underrated features which you can use it, like NDI or and a lot of stuff. So the thing I told, we use Watchout as like E2. So this is a basic show of it. Like we were powering the LED walls and both the plasmas using Watchout, and every content goes from here. So we use like it is like a hub for spreading out content to the LED walls and plasmas. So not only the PPTs and the video feed goes only to LED walls, but we also send it to the chairperson monitor or a conference monitor if needed. And then this is one of the show which we use all 4K outputs. Like you can build a Watchout server with 6 outputs, but we are having a NVIDIA card, so we were doing the center wall was somewhere around 7,500 pixels, and the right to LEDs were around 5,500 to 1,000. So it was around 8K pixels, which we are sending out of LED wall, which is now easy, but we did this in 2017 or 18. And so this is what I'm talking about. So I was controlling this whole from this Nova Star to this switcher and managing around 6 into 3, 20, 24 to 30 inputs of using these switches and Watchout instead of a E2 or this thing. And I was feeding out for the broadcast using Watchout. So the main display took around 2 4K outputs. It was a 55 feet wall by 14 feet height. And then we were feeding it to these plasmas for the chairpersons. this was again duplicate output, but then one more output was used for the broadcast. So I create timelines in Watchout, which uh, we can trigger with one queue. You can trigger all the LED walls and a separate mix for broadcast. So it was really interesting because I didn't know what I'm gonna do in this show. I was like before the before night. So it was really interesting. We hired these switches because I didn't know how many inputs were coming, and then it was like initially I thought it was lesser number of inputs, but it was since I work a lot of with medical conferences. Uh, there are OT, like we work with OTs which send 3 outputs per OT, and then we had to convert. There was total 6 OTs, so we had to convert all the fiber lines into the switches and then switch manually for the LED walls and broadcast. And this is a show where I worked, which we used around 20 to 30 layers of timeline queues and a lot of virtual displays to send the output. And this is a use case of BitFocus companion for Watchout. So in this show, I triggered all the queues using Watchout on a single iPad. And I even programmed the show before the event. And then I just went there and click buttons on the iPad. You can use a Stream Deck, but if you want flexibility to go to the plasmas we are feeding and check the video if it's running or not, so you can use it for that. I put the show this was my very first Watchout freelance event, so I had to work hard on this event because the content reached the event venue only 15 minutes back, and I had to program the show while it's live. And I was using this with Novastar J6. So like for every queue, I was freezing the processor and I was like fully going online, offline mode in Watchout. But there was no hiccups in the physical event as well. So it was kind of like one big show, but it happened all in the live. So I just want to put it up there. And this is an interesting use case of Watchout, which I didn't know of. Like I just thought, usually for our medical events, we use a software for projecting stereoscopic 3D, but the software was having a lot of bugs. So I thought of just a solution. Why not use Watchout for this? And we had an event where we have done a couple, but this was an event we started. So we had a LED wall there, but during some of the sessions, we had to bring a projection from a 3D machine, and it was outputting left and right in a single 4K by 1K resolution. So we had inputted into Watchout, and I can show you how we did. Like we created virtual displays and separated the left and right and feed it to the projectors to create a 3D imaging. So yeah, we can. So is there any questions? We can start off the basic session of programming the Watchout.
So, yeah, I think maybe we can backtrack. It sounds like you were doing a lot with Watchout. You said you were doing functions that you would normally do with an E2. At one point, you had 32 timelines. I think you said at one point. That's
20 to 30.
That's phenomenal. Now that workflow is just very different. Now you were using Companion with an iPad. It sounded like, so you had some you weren't tethered to a keyboard, so you were setting up presets or at least hotkey triggers with the iPad, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and the companion made it very easy because like I can trigger a lot of cues in one button, and then I don't have to even worry about if the I can just view the watchout projection if it is playing or not, and it makes it so easy. It is better than WatchNet, but WatchNet is based for a lot of installations. But yeah, for rental, I think company is a great app for using with any software.
Great. And then had you done a lot of E2 shows before you had to do these Watchout shows? So did you have something to compare it to?
No, but I have learned E2, but learned E2 in the sense I have learned it from AV Educate and other YouTube videos. But I know how it works, but I have not used it in any show yet. So
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. But you were doing a lot of the same functions. So yeah, do you maybe want to? I realized we kind of jumped into the middle. You were showing us so many great projects you've done with it, but maybe can you talk a little bit about what Watchout for maybe viewers who don't know the basics of Watchout? Can you give us a little rundown of what a Watchout system is, what makes it up, and give us kind of like a basic overview?
Yeah, let me start. So when you open Watchout, this is the screen you get, and I'm gonna create a new show. So this is what you basically get. So Watchout is a multi-display software which allows you to play a lot of clips, a lot of 4K media easily without having a lot of stress on your actual production PC. So there are some softwares which put stress like Resolume, QLab, and ProPercenter. So they use one of your, you control in one of your screens and use the same vision for outputting to the LED walls. And so you're putting a lot of stress on your PC already to play the 4K or 8K clips. So Watchout and Pixera kind of software simplifies it as when you, so I can show you this PPD. So you have a production PC which is mainly used for control and configuring the timelines of the show, and there is a server separately for sending outputs to the LED walls, projectors, or plasmas, or whatever screens you're working with. You could add a gigabyte switch or a 10 gig switch if you want to get more servers out. Like you can program a show with one production and lot of servers if you want to add more displays. So this is how it works, and let me show you how you can configure your first show. So right when you see, it's very confusing, but it is very similar to video editing softwares like Adobe or whatever. We can start off with stage. The stage is like your display panel. So let me move this here. So this is where you add displays or projectors here. So I'm going to add a display here. So the current version of Watchout supports another decklink card where you can use it as an AUX output, or you can use it as a capture card. So right now we're gonna add a graphics card, and this is the output number. I'm not able to show it now, but when the displays are configured and output to the screens, it will show you the IP address and the output number on the screen, so you can add the corresponding display number to configure the show. So right when I said you need to control servers using IP, so you need to type down the IP address of your the server which you are working with, and you can test. But this only tests the network connection between the two servers, but it doesn't actually tell you what display it is connected, or the display is connected or not. So it's kind of useless, but it's easy to test the connection between the displays. So right now I'm gonna add a display right here, and you can move it in the stage. This is kind of like a previous screen, but yeah. So there are many shortcuts inside Watchout which you need to learn to make it easy, like control 1, 3 to zoom out, and control zoom. So the Watchout user guide has a lot of shortcuts if you want to work easily with Watchout software. So I'm going to put it right here, and all the coordinates in the stage are reflecting in coordinate points here. So if so the stage starts with X and Y points. So if you keep it on a 0, it goes to the origin. So this is where you configure displays. This is just a standard resolution, but if you want to send it to a LED wall, you can change the resolution of the non-standard resolution you are working with, or if the output card, if the processor supports non-standard resolution, you can even work with like so you can work with non-standard resolutions. This is one output. So if you want to add more outputs to your screen, you can just add more displays, and be sure to give it another name, because it might show some error, and give the same IP address, and change the channel number to the second output. And then if you want to do the same resolution, or you can do another one. So in order to add a perfect edge, you can type down the coordinates to be a pixel perfect. So this is where you add displays, but you're not outputting anything to the server yet. So you need to add some kind of media file. Let me see.
Srikanth, so is the stage, is there a limit to what like pixel count the stage can be?
No.
Okay. And what about the displays that you dropped in there?
This is a 12 feet by 50 feet, I think, LED wall, and another 30 or 20 feet. So I've just added one 4K output, two 4K outputs to the stage, and I'm not sending any output, but I've just added these displays, and we can configure it however we want. So we could also send a standard resolution and let the processor send non-standard output to the LED wall. That can be also done, but it depends mostly on the content we are working with. So you need to have a knowledge on what resolution the content is coming from, and what displays are you planning to send.
I guess it would also matter the LED processor that you're using.
Yes.
What it can take if you have a Novastar 4K or a 660 or something.
Yeah. So it mainly depends on the processors. Like if the processor supports a standard resolution only, you can output a standard resolution and then convert it to a LED wall. If not, if it accepts a non-standard resolution like 6500 by 1800 something, you can send it also. So I'm gonna add media file.
When I was using version 5 is my heyday of use, and all the outputs on a single player had to be the same resolution. Is that still the case in the current version?
I'm sorry, come again?
when I was using version 5, if I had a media player, our big media player had 6 outputs. All of them had to be the same resolution. If we needed a different resolution, we had to set up a different player machine for that other resolution.
No, it's still not same. Still the same. You can do multiple resolutions, and Watchout version 5 is very different from 6. I think version 5, I think you need to have a single server for single output, or correct me if I'm wrong, because I've not used version 5. I started when the version 6 came out.
Multiple outputs per one graphics card came out with 5. It was 4 that you needed one machine per output. That's when I started.
Yeah, but I think there was limitations with the timelines you work on, right? Yeah. So let me see if I have any media file.
How many outputs do you normally send out of a single player machine?
4 to 6, and depends on your graphic card and what it supports. I think up to 6.
Dataton has a server that will do 12.
I think that is including the STI decklink card I told you earlier about.
Exactly, yeah. Their Watchout Max server will do 12 outputs.
Yeah. So I have set of...
Is that 12 at 4K or is that 12 at HD?
2K. Yeah. HD.
And how does that compare in price to like an E2 or...
I think it will be around the same price as E2. I'm not sure about US pricing.
It'll be cheaper than an E2.
Yeah, but if Watchout's significantly cheaper, but it doesn't have the input capability of an E2.
But I guess if you build your own server, it is better for you.
Yeah, I want to say, I mean, how many inputs have you been able to drive into one? The most I've put in is 4 on cards.
Well, if you consider NDI, then will be able to expand it quite a bit.
Yeah. Or it depends on what the show is. If you want to display multiple outputs at the same time, like what Jeff did for the Zoom, if you need an NDI. But as far as physical output, like cameras, at a time simultaneously, how many outputs are you gonna display on the LED wall? You can add switches or add multiple. As far as capture cards, you can add multiple capture cards. So it depends on your spec of the machine. So there's no limit for capture card, but there is a limit for GPU. It can only work with single GPU for now. But I'm expecting when Watchout 7, they might add multiple GPU support.
And does it make a difference going up to higher end GPUs like the big Quadros and things, or new 3080s?
We use Quadros mainly, and we also have AMD capture cards, but AMD GPUs, but we use Quadros for our shows.
I guess my big question would be, what's latency like? I saw you were using video coming through in an IMAG situation. Are you a frame, 2 frames, 20 frames?
I think I had for that multiple capture event, I think I had a 5 to 6 frames delay. I had to manage audio for the broadcast, but not for the LED walls. I had to manually delay the audio for the broadcast.
I wouldn't recommend it for IMAG. It's unless it's a really big venue.
But for the iMac, we use data path capture cards, which I've seen no delay. But if you're adding more converters and fiber, you can see some delay, I think.
You're also going to get the inherent delay from the video wall processor, though, too. So that's always a concern when doing iMac with LED walls.
I wouldn't recommend for a large event with a lot of cameras, but if you're doing shows like we do a lot of medical conferences, so for that a lot of only the cameras are less, and the machine outputs and the the PPTs are large. So we use the capture for that, and so right now we are using NDIs, but yeah. So we get back. This is the main timeline, which is very standard to use. But I wouldn't recommend to use main timeline for the whole show. You can configure the whole show using the main timeline, but there's a lot of flexibility in using AUX timelines. So you can add the AUX window right here, and so this does this is give you multiple timelines like your main timeline. So if you're gonna output a video like here, and let me zoom out. So if you're gonna play this clip using main timeline, you can do the same exact show in main timeline, but you are very limited to a lot of features and cues, and you need to get back in time for the next set of layouts, or you need a speaker text to be put on, or whatever it is. You are playing with your own timeline during the show. It is not recommended. So I would suggest you to put a standard the background holding slide or this thing in main timeline and have it as a backup, and would fully use the power of AUX timelines. So let me start. So AUX timeline does is the same thing, but you'll be able to create more timelines, and you can rename and call it whatever. So yeah, any questions?
When I was doing Watchout, I only put test patterns on my main timeline, and then I closed it during show, so I wouldn't accidentally bring up test patterns. And then I used AUX timelines for everything on the show.
Yeah, but what is the purpose of main timeline is you can so Watchout has a feature where you can export the main timeline as a movie clip. So if you want to give a previs to your client about the show you are working on or something, you can do that, or you can use it for timecode. So you can import a timecode and trigger main timelines with it. I think you can use it for AUX also, but mainly it is used for the main timeline.
And that leads us to a question that came in, which was sorry. Jonah had asked, what is your preferred workflow as far as auxiliary timelines are concerned? Do you build your whole show in your main timeline and save auxiliary timelines for emergency use, or do you build many timelines and run the show that way?
I personally create many timelines, AUX timelines, and then have maybe holding slide, or like someone said, Dave said, I think a test pattern, and then some standby clips if in case the AUX timelines are paused out or stopped for some reason. So there is a feature in Watchout where so one sec. So there is a status bar where you can add online if you're online, offline. So it works where now the displays is offline. So if you go online, the content which you transfer to the media server, which you put it in the timeline, goes to the server and gets played. So that's where the content starts. So if you are back offline, you can't control the server, and the last clip you played will be playing if it is in loop. So we can add a standby where, so if you go to standby mode, you can have AUX timelines to be played in a standby mode. So yeah, one sec. Initially, if you go to standby mode, it will fade to black like in a vision mixer. But you can configure main timelines or AUX timelines to be played in a standby mode. If there is any problem during your show, or if any content is coming up late for your show, you can use main timelines for that. but my workflow is around AUX Timelines. Yeah. Put it here. So I'm gonna put a working clip.
Hold on. Chuck had a question for you.
Well, I was just wondering. It looks like, can you build the whole show on a laptop on the plane or whatever, and not
Yes.
worry about it until you have the
Yes, if you
outputs
know
on
the
site?
if you know what gear are you working with before and what content of video files you're working with, you can build the whole show before you go to the event. I've
And
done it
another thing to
multiple
keep in
times
mind. Another thing to keep in mind is you don't have to own Watchout to program Watchout. You could program it on the plane, like you're saying, without buying a license, and save the show
Yep.
completely, and then get to your place and transfer the show over. And it even has a system where you can bundle your workspace, so you can like bundle all of your media and then have one folder that you bring over to your production machine at the job site.
I have configured a show remotely and send it to another person for operating. So it's that kind of. So how you can do is after you program the show. I was gonna show you at the end, but since you asked, you can save as a copy, but you might miss some media files. So you can use this consolidate to feature, and you can. So I'm gonna choose a. So it pops up a window where you can use all medias regardless of what is used, or you can use what media is only used on your timeline. So you can copy, and it will save the show on that folder, and then you can send it to any person, and he can open the show and be on the live show without any delay. So. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. So we got,
go ahead, Omar. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. We got one more on the Zoom side from Jarno. He's asking, can you show us how you fired cues from the companion to Watchout?
Yeah. 1 second. This server I'm working with is not configured for Watchout, so yeah, the main thing you need to remember is you need to, before installing Watchout on your server or protection, you need to configure a lot of stuff, which Watchout provides the exact steps to do it. And that's how your system will be stable. Otherwise, it might crash like it did now. So I recommend you to follow the steps if you're installing Watchout on your machine. And Watchout depends mainly what softwares you're using on the same machine also. If you're using like something like vMix and OBS or something on the same machine as Watchout protection, it might give you some hiccups from time to time.
While we wait for you to get rebooted up, Jonah had asked, has anyone had significant experience using NDI inputs into Watchout? I've done some testing and had trouble with dropping frames. Otherwise, this could be awesome as far as bringing in zoom galleries for large displays.
I've used NDI, but I've used NDI as a backup to my capture. So not as a main live input.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're just doing it as a backup, or you're using some sort of capture device to bring in.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Was the reason for that because of just unfamiliarity of NDI, or is it more so of latency or something else that's involved? Does it not handle NDI well?
No, but I've like for my shows, we work with a lot of medical conferences, so there is a lot of inputs coming in and out. And sometimes we need to bring in the speaker's one laptop, which will not have NDI sometimes. So we use capture as a main, and if we have time to install NDI on their laptops, we might use NDI. And for our sending timer, so we use timer for our scientific program events. So for timer, we use NDI all the time. We don't use capture for the timer.
So one workflow that I've used with Watchout before using NDI, most of the stuff I do with Watchout is all artsy fartsy theater stuff. So less of the corporate stuff. One of the things that we do often is use After Effects and use the NDI output of After Effects going directly into Watchout and have that mapped over multiple projectors that are edge blended so that we can make masking or view our content before we render it. And it works really, really well. I also did a show a while back where we had actors on stage that had iPhones in their hands, and then in the show they were supposed to be calling on Skype to somebody, you know, in another country, and we wanted to see the video from the phones. So I actually had the NDI app on the phones, and I was sending that video live to big monitors on stage, and it worked great. And it was like very, very little lag. It was awesome.
That's great. Did you have any problems with the delay, or does it matter for the show? Did it matter for the show?
It didn't really matter much for the show for it to be perfect, but the delay wasn't an issue for us. And okay. I mean, the big thing is we had an access point right off stage, so like that was what made it work. And we didn't do it we did SD quality from the phones because, you know, you can only do so much when it's like a theater and there's actors holding on to phones. Like we just went SD instead of doing the HDX.
Okay. So yeah. I can show you another use case where you can use Watchout for sending output to a large stadium or something. So usually in stadiums, we are working with very non-standard resolutions, right? So the height of the LED wall will be like 2 or 3 panels, and we are like say we are working with 4,000 or 3,000 pixels wide. So we can add a normal display. We need to add something called virtual displays, which are displays, but it kind of copies what's on the display, and you can use it as a media file to send it to your main display actually. So we can use so if the height of the stadium wall is like 256 or 356 something, and it is like kind of 3,400 pixels wide. So I have a media file here. I'm gonna open timeline. So I'm gonna put this background here. And so you can use Watchout to scale or position. So you can get onto here and you have a lot of effects to work with, but I don't recommend using the inbuilt. You can use position and scaling and crop, but I don't recommend to use your the animations directly from Watchout. You can do it on your graphics, Adobe or whatever software you're working with. So we can, yeah. So now I have put a virtual display. Let's call it stadium. And we're gonna send this output to a LED wall, which might be using a 2K or 4K display. So what we can do is, since we are working with a large output, we can split up these LED walls into, since we are not working with a lot of height, we can directly import this. So as soon as you add virtual displays, you have the virtual display option as a media for you. What this does is you can import into your timeline and it will give you the same what is being displayed there, and you can crop or send only the necessary pixels you need to send for the wall. So how you have configured your processor, we can also configure your virtual displays, like say you have configured the first set of wall, so you're taking 1920. So for the first set of walls, you're copying this layer, and you can copy and paste the same display, and you can capture this, the second set of the wall. So you have displays here, so you can add it to your timeline and you can spread it out like this. So this is a use case where you need to send a lot of pixels from non-standard to a standard resolution to a LED wall processor. So there is many ways of doing it. It mainly depends on how you configure a processor. Yeah, Chuck?
Well, I was just saying, so question, that would also work for masking non-traditional shapes, like if you're mounting the walls at an angle, the panels at an angle. I'm thinking more for like art installations where I mount my panels sometimes in an X, or I did one where I did a forest of 3 panels mounted on truss, and then I broadcast like a tree with snow falling, and but I was using the Nova software to do my mapping. So this looks way easier.
Yeah. So there is a lot of ways, but it depends on your media. If your media is of a standard flat, you've not done any masking in your media, you can add it like this. But if you have already done your masking, you can. So there is a tween option where you can add corners. So you can map it for your projection, for your 2D projection. I don't recommend for this for your 3D projection, but if you're working with 2D where you just need to mask, you can use this. Or if you're masking your whole display for your projection, you can use the mask inside of the display software itself. So you can add this was blind, sorry. You can add a oval mask and you can play along with it. Yeah.
One time I did a medical booth at a convention, and they wanted this projection on this piece of furniture, and I used the masking there and masked out a circle for the projection. It was pretty cool.
And Chuck, you can rotate both the virtual displays and the actual displays to whatever degree you want, so you can match it to whatever.
So you can. So if you're doing a booth where you're configuring 4 displays on this thing, you can use the rotate option. And so if you're doing like a booth, say 4 displays, you can copy paste the displays however you want, like your setup. But be sure to change the name of the displays so it doesn't throw you error when you go live. So yeah, you can pixel map perfectly when according to your media. But so I'm gonna put a video right here, and there's a lot of shortcuts which if you learn it will be better. So so let's say you have done this display, but you want to previs kind of what actually goes on the screen. You can, so there is a key, but yeah, I know the shortcut, but yeah. So you can see what is actually going out to the displays, but I don't know the feature. I think it's called mask play displays. Yeah. So you can see what is actually going live. So there is some picture you need to crop. You can crop and keep your media, and this doesn't like affect your media. You can add multiple media and send different scaling, different position, and whatever you can do. This is for like a standard booth using 4 displays. But if you add a Matrox or DataPath FX4, you can add multiple displays to it. If you are working with 4 outputs or 6 outputs, you can use one output to another hub, which will give you 4 more outputs. And you so how you will do it is kind of like this. So you have one huge output, let's say by 2K. So you can send this to a hub where it will split into 2 for your plasmas you're working with for TV booths or something. If you want to minimize your outputs from your graphic card and project it to a large video wall if you're on show site. So any questions?
I think we had more comments at this point than questions. Back to kind of what we had talked about earlier, Ben had mentioned that the data path capture cards have a 1 to 5 frame delay depending on what else is going on.
Yeah.
May as well make a decent SDI input card as well.
I recommend DataPath and Magewell. I don't recommend Blackmagic for your Watchout machines. Blackmagic is mainly used for, if you can use it for broadcast, it will be better.
And then Preston had mentioned that he mostly uses W9100s with good results. And I've also tried the new WX 9100 with good results as well.
Yeah, it's a great card with 6 outputs, but it's Thunderbolt mini DP instead of a standard DP. So if you want to lock your outputs, I recommend full DP.
And then, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk in the Facebook side about NDI. It seems there have been some Watchout's done some updates with NDI that might be helping, might help some people if they had some problems in the past. Some of those things might have gotten fixed. Some people have had some great results with NDI. Other people are saying that they got their NDI feeds got cut down to 30 frames per second instead of 60, so it didn't look good on the LED walls. So NDI, still kind of hit or miss for some people. And hopefully, like as you said, maybe in version 7, that'll be something that'll be improved upon. Maybe so even natively integrated.
So what's interesting about Watchout is your servers can be of any version, and your production can be of any version of Watchout. And if you when you go online, it automatically updates your server as your production, and also the NDI version as well. So if you're working with NDI 4.5 and the server has a lower version of it, when you go online, it will ask in a pop-up if you want to update these things. And if you go through the dialog box, so it will update the servers first, the latest version as your production, and then go online, and then display it to the screens. So
so it should be up to date if they're up to date. But this could very well be possible too. I just found a bug in a live view situation where it was doing the exact same thing. It was 1080p 1080p 30, and it was giving me true 1080p 30, not 2997. So of course, when you're trying to get into video, things went wonky. And so I'm finding that a lot of times, especially when you're having people go between production or broadcast and live event production and displays, there's a very easy that a couple digits can be left off.
So if you want to add NDI inputs, you can go to add media, and there is a lot of medias you can add. Like media file is standard video, photo, imaging, and then you can add image sequence, PNG sequence, or you can even split your content for your displays. Like say if you're working with larger than 8K or content or something. If you are pre-split the content for your displays, you can import the old folder here, and instead of importing a single file every time. And then I didn't know of this feature when I worked with 3D stereoscopic, but the Watchout has a built-in left and right output where you can import the files. But these are our files. So I was working with live 3D input, so it doesn't matter anyway. So yeah, and for NDI, it Watchout gives you an option for a backup, but I've not seen it in work because I've not seen my NDI drop. But I don't recommend using NDI for Watchout. I've still yet to test some of the. I've only used NDI max to four inputs. That's me because even I have a gigabyte switch. I don't. I've ordered my 10 gig, so I'm yet to test some of the limitations of NDI still. So if anyone has used a NDI with 10 gig switch, you can comment. If Rocco or Jeff has used with 10 gig.
It's going to be on a 25 gig in my.
Yeah, I know.
But so I'm not going to worry about the network side of it, but for sure, if you're doing more, I mean, a typical gigabit switch or gigabit connection, it's really more about your limitations on your local machine or your server machine and what they can see. 6 to 8 is about all you're going to be able to do in HD streams off of 1 gigabit. So going up to a 10, you really open up a lot more capability.
Yeah. So I want to show you how I do for my scientific conference, which I do mostly. I do less of corporate, only freelancing for corporate, and I take up medical shows as my primary thing. So we usually create many timelines and order them like you can use numbers to order them. So if you're working with more backgrounds and you want to navigate to the correct background at the correct time, yeah, and then we can use. So interesting thing with virtual displays is I use it for PPTs. So in a lot of PPTs they come up with 16:9, 4:3. We don't know exactly which. So 4:3 give you the ugly bar, which you need to send it to the screens. So what I do is I create a virtual display separately for 4:3 and sorry. And I place it somewhere here and maybe import my live. So let's say this is a PPT coming off of my capture card in input 3 and 1080p 60. So let's say this is a 16:9 and for so for 16:9, you can directly import the PPT for your main LED wall. But for cropping, you can crop in inside a media, but I prefer this way because I have a lot of like I don't need to crop every input inside Watchout. I can just use a 4:3 timeline and import PPT onto it, and it's already cropped. So let's say if you're sending it to a LED wall. So the 4:3 PPT is right here, and I can send a 4:3 here, and this is 16:9. So you don't need to have that ugly bar when you're doing presentations. So why I do this, because I handle a lot of like 100 to 150 presentations in a day. So it is really easy for me when we don't know the actual size of the PPT, because it might come from a presenter laptop or it might come from our own laptop as well. So yeah, once the display is configured, even you can keep this aside and create a separate virtual display just for your even for your LED wall, and then output it to your output the media file, output this media file to your LED. Because why I'm saying this, you can have a lot of flexibility in this. Let's say you are configuring this wall, and this wall has a like say even pillars included. So you can have displays like say so you can have pillars inside where you need to send content, but when you're trying to map inside media inside Watchout, it might be tricky where you need to place pixel perfect. You can use the numbers for your position, but if you want to snap onto the display, you can use like say, so I'm snapping right into a pillar right now. So you can use virtual displays for easy snapping instead of using exact pixel count if your workflow is fast. So I told you I did a show here where the content came only 15 minutes before the event, and I had to snap all the displays really quick and configure the whole show when it's live. So it might be useful for these kind of applications. Any questions with virtual displays?
Something we used virtual displays for a lot was when we had a super wide backdrop LED wall and we wanted to show the client's content on a confidence monitor. We would slice out half the screen that included their slides and feed that out via virtual display to a confidence monitor. And also to throw it into the multi-viewer so that, you know, the producer or stage manager could see what was going on the whole wall.
So you can, so if your output is done with LED walls and you have a lot of outputs, so what I do usually when I'm working is I create a separate output for my preview. So if I'm very backstage and I want to see what's going on to the LED wall without any camera, I can use virtual displays to add it to my preview monitor. Let's say this is a preview monitor, and I can output the same to this, and I can even scale it. So it's like a kind of mini show you got back there. And what I do usually is I add my live inputs also to my preview screen, all live inputs. So I can see what live input is on and trigger it for the main LED wall. This is one of the use. And here I'm pushing out. So this is a 4K output to a 40 by 10 LED wall, and these two displays are connected for the second and third output. And my fourth output is usually my preview monitor, which will be showing all these three walls, and then also my live inputs. So I can see what's going on directly to the plasma and to the LED wall, where I can also create a separate mix for the plasmas where I need to show only the PPT with timer, or I can show the PPT with the live input, whatever it is, apart from this LED wall. So you can use it like a kind of like a 3 ME or 4 ME switcher Yeah. So after you get to know of the timelines, you can start configuring with queues where there's a lot of inbuilt queues. So you can add a pause queue where you need to pause at a certain time, and the video is cropped, or you can add transitions like opacity when you're starting off and creating an end. So you can, it's like a video editing software where you can play with a lot of animations or positions. So if you want to, there is different ways of looping a video, where you can loop a video by adding a pause queue here and let it run for a free run and loop. So this will, even if it is paused, it will run the video queue in a loop and in a free run loop. Like there is different ways of creating loops where you can also put it in last, and so there is a lot of inbuilt features where you can jump to a certain time position, where you can jump to 1.4 minutes, and you can tell it to stop or pause or still run. So when it is queued, it will go to the position and start the queue. Yeah. So I recommend you to put pause queues either below or above. Like say if you're working with, so you can add a layer by using Control I or the features. So you can add any number of layers, and if your control queues are at the top, it will give you a better view of what you are working with. And even you can add a pause queue and give it a name like A, and copy. You can also copy. Let's say this is B. So you can have companion trigger control queues, or you can even jump to the next queue with arrow keys. So this might be helpful if you want to switch from from one particular scene to another scene really quick, and you want to skip some part of the video you're displaying out to the LED wall. So this is one kind of scenario for it. Any comments?
No one's mentioned yet. I think there's some preferred video formats that Watchout likes, like HAP, and it will do H.264, but it really likes HAP.
Yeah, there is problems when you're working with MP4, H.264 footage, where it might throw you some error, but you can get around with a handy tool to simply converting it to another codec. But yeah, mainly you can work with HAB QuickTime codec and export the video files in MOV, and it puts stress on your GPU, and the CPU is used for displays and playing the videos faster without any lag. So all the stress is put on your GPU. So it mainly depends on your GPU and CPU.
So I just want to jump in here, guys, real quick, and just say we're at the hour mark here. We got about hour 10. We got 40 minutes left. If you're new to the program, just know this is a live Q&A session. So if you have any questions on the Facebook side, I see lots of chats going on. But if you have any questions, please bring them up. We will get to them as quickly as we can. I want to step back for a little bit. Obviously, you're super talented in this, and you're the right guy for this show. And I'm seeing what you're doing with controlling multiple things by yourself and to kind of taking over a show. What I want to see is, can you start your show and walk us your work from your start point to get your content brought in, to get it to look right on the well, it's offline, but to get it to look right, and you're sending out like what is your process and your workflow? Like, if you could walk us through that so we can see how that works when you use Watchout. Like, what are you going through as you start your process when you essentially get content, you're putting it in the system, what are your steps that you're taking to make your work? And I want to see if the panelists here, the guys who raised their hand, like Brent and Dave and Rocco, if you guys can comment or have any opposing opinions on the way, hey, I've done it XYZ way because of my scenarios. I'm also curious as well, me coming from media service from another side, not really too much on Watchout side, on hearing people's opinions on timelines versus a queue or a safe position, like on an E2 or a spider or an ascender. I see this is very timeline heavy, so in my mind, as you're talking, I'm seeing you solve things that I was like, okay, well, is that a possibility? And then obviously it is. So transitions were there, pausing was there, looping content was there. I'm seeing you're doing auxiliaries, you're opening multiple windows to control that. I'm wondering, when you have multiple auxiliaries open, is there a way to control all of them over one time? Another thing that came to mind is when you're kind of going through this, I like the tasks that you're creating ahead of time. For me, is that something you do for every show, or you kind of build those as you see need fit, because you're obviously very quick at this? I'm also seeing a little bit of the audience we have is very advanced, and a lot of guys are very knowledgeable in this, so they're tracking, and I want to make sure that we hit the guys who may be beginners or watching this to learn something. I want to make sure that we're slowing it down a little bit just for them. Are getting very, very active, and there's a lot of back and forth, but it's about things that guys who already use Watchout and know what's going on are talking about.
Yeah. So right after I know what pixels we are working with, I create the virtual display. Let's say I have image right here, let's say 40 by 10. I see the resolution. I get the media files 3072 by 768. I immediately create a virtual display where.
So right now.
So you don't need to create. Yeah, your voice is kind of buzzy, but yeah. Hello?
Yeah, well, just walk me through it. So you get content and it ends up in your media file. And then once you have that media file, it shows you the information, which is the resolution side, shows you the type of file it is, a little thumbnail, so you get a visual reference, right? And then the name of that file, which can be changed by you. So once you have that point, you're going to essentially take that and use your stage to create your output. Is that following?
Yeah, you don't need to actually know what displays are you working with. So you can create a virtual display, and let's call it like.
And then to get to this one, are you just looking at everything that pops up?
Which one?
So you're highlighting this right now, and then that tab pops up in front of it where you're inputting information, right?
Yeah, you can double click.
How are you accessing? Is that a right click function, or?
You can do double click, and then you have a lot of options where you can choose the display resolution and the rotation and X and Y coordinates of your stage. And you can, if you want to be color heavy, you can also change this to a different color to differentiate between the different walls. So if you have like a right, left, center LED wall and a lot of plasmas, you can differentiate the colors for the different walls. So right after I know the resolution I'm working with, I immediately create a virtual display, and then I create a test pattern where I create one. You can do a lot of shortcuts where Control J is for AUX timeline specifications. So I do a test pattern. So this is not only for my test pattern. I put my standard effects there. So you can zoom in. So there's a way to decrease or increase. The standard is 10 seconds, which you can change it in preferences. So if you want to put a media or image standard default duration, I usually do 3 seconds or 5 seconds. It depends on what show I'm working with. So let's say I'm at 5 seconds mark, and I usually put a fade in and out. So yeah, you can add. So this is usual fade in and out where you want to display a holding slide or a background for the conference. So I usually put a pause cue here and another pause cue in case if it is triggered. without any this thing. And for the end, I put a stop cue. So this is a basic test pattern, which you can also use it for your slides. Let's say if your content is coming late, and you can just copy paste this timeline and just rename it as a BG. And so once your BG is arrived, you can just replace this file, and it makes it so simple. So you don't have to worry about the transitions or the fade you have already kept is already there and ready to get started. So yeah, this is how I do it. And after I know how many screens I need to feed in, if I need to feed in, like I say, outside screen, which is outside the hall, which is a TV or LED wall, which will be outputting the same, which is going on the LED wall, I usually add a virtual display for it. And let's call it like a 1080p display. And you can do separate timelines for your separate, separate timelines for your separate virtual displays for configuring the outputs. But let's say this is the outside wall, and let's say you have a preview monitor for you. It is good to have, but you can also work without it. So if you're using a lot of outputs, you can work without it. So if you're sending plasmas for your stage, you can also create displays, or I recommend using virtual displays. So let's say this is like confidence monitor. So I keep it here. And if you want to mimic what's going on the LED, you can create a virtual display timeline and send out the main LED. One sec. So you can send out the main LED for your plasmas and scale it. So you can scale it for your 1920 by 1080. Or if you want to create a separate mix, like say the same background, if you have a 1920 by 1080 file, you can send that here, or you can even put it on your, you can create a background, and let's say this is the 1080p version of it, and you can scale it here and trigger the both the LED walls and plasma at the same time. So this is useful if you are doing a multi-mix where you need to send a separate. So I have done the same machine used for broadcast, but I don't recommend it. Since the client asked for it, I did it, but I don't recommend using this for a broadcast. But you can use it for sending out to a preview monitor or confidence monitor, or you want to send it to your producer who is away from the hall to communicate with them to get what's going on the wall or something.
So let me ask you this, just to again, feed into my community here. What about the audio side of this? How are you inputting, outputting audio? Are you able to adjust it? What kind of features do you have? How do my audio guys play with Watchout?
So when you're doing audio, I recommend if the video file has audio, I recommend you to flip the audio file separately for playing it. If you have a lot of videos with audio, otherwise you can play the audio embedded. But so you can. I don't have a clip right now, but you can separate the audio files and keep it like one layer for video, and this, let's say this is audio clip. So it will sync both, but keep it as a separate layer, as I suggest, because there is some audio issues where it might not play the audio when it is embedded for some kind of formats inside Watchout.
So that does create a little bit of a pre-production workflow to split the audio out. And what we found is it's best to play the audio out of the same machine that it's displaying, out of the sound card in that machine, so it's most likely to be in sync. And you can route on the timeline which output machine you can route out of your production machine or any of the display machines. You just assign which video card you want that audio to play out of.
Yeah. So if you're say kind of maxing out your server limits for a particular show and you want to add servers, you can buy another license and add a server and connect it to the same. Let's say we are working with a huge LED wall, like say 100 feet or 120 feet. You can do it with 4K displays if you have the right processor, but if you don't have the right processor, like say you're limiting down on your processor, you can add let's say like a display grid. So this allows you to add multiple displays at the same time. You can do it manually, but yeah, let's say you're working with 1920 by 1080. So like say you are maxing out, if you're using a 6 output card and one display, you need to display it from another machine. So you can use this kind of feature for configuring displays really quick, or you can add it manually, but this gives you a setup pre-done if the resolutions are fixed beforehand.
Have you ever run into sync issues, especially I know on a widescreen blend, if you're using multiple display computers to try and display content that's butted together?
As far as one server, I'm not. But if you add multiple servers, you need a sync card, quadro sync, or AMD. I don't know what AMD uses, but you need a sync card between the servers in order to have the blend go well. And if you want to capture the same output in the different machine, you need to split your capture onto both the machines. If you're doing one capture to your machine, it doesn't send to the other server. So that is one thing to keep in mind.
And then the DAs and whatever else you would need as well.
Yeah.
Does anybody on the
I
I think a lot of people use E2s and Spider for your shows in US, but here the clients don't pay for such kind of budget. So and then if they pay, we can use switchers like Analog Way or something. But when you're working with limited budget and you want to display a big show there, you can use this as a switcher like what I'm using now.
Right. Yeah. No. My question to that was originally when you said that, why not Resolume or Pro Video Player at that point? If it's a budget issue, I mean, what are the key advantages Watchout has versus those programs?
Watchout is designed to run 24/7, so you can trust on it. But Resolume, I think it's more for a VJ kind of software. You can still do the same thing in any software, doesn't matter, but it gives you a flexibility on the working with timelines and programming the show pre-hand. In Resolume, if you kind of the timelines are not well fitted out and you need to go back and forth, whereas here you can have the list kind of right here. I can open you a show and show you.
Yeah, when you get that show ready, Rocker, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was saying that with projector blends, if I have multiple Watchout display machines, the Watchout network sync seems to do a good enough job. But if it's an LED wall and it's multiple machines, then I will do a sync with the graphics cards. Sometimes I'll use an external clock, but sometimes I'll just use the
burst.
Just an external like gen lock.
Okay.
And then, but sometimes I will just use the master or the main cluster display machine to send the clock as well. That also works. If I'm using like Fire Pro cards or something.
Yeah. So this is one of my pre-shows where so I've configured virtual displays in order to make snapping easy, the media of snapping easy to the LED walls. But so I created this show without all these pre-hand, using only this. So right after I know the resolution, I can program left pillar, right pillar, and the main screen and the this is the one LED wall which is split into two, and left and right for the pillars. So like say I'm outputting this to a virtual display, and if I want to send it to the main LED, I have timelines where I can just turn on for the LED, for the previous. The previous I have with live inputs, and for the plasmas as well. The plasmas I create a separate mix in order to put in a full screen for the preview monitor. But yeah, this is one of my starting shows which I can share. Yeah, so I have some maybe video loops which are running. So for the loops, so I can trigger the plasma differently. So if I want to send live input to a plasma instead of a video, I can trigger. So this is where the cues come in handy. You can just go left and right and change the individual displays you're working with, kind of like a switcher, which you do it in E2.
Do you know the F1, F2 trick?
No, what is it?
Name those pause cues F1, F2, F3, F4. Then you can use your function keys to switch to them quickly.
Okay. I usually name it A, B, C, D and use it with companion. So
yeah, you can actually use your function keys on your keyboard by naming it F1,
try.
F2, F3. Capital F.
Oh, doesn't seem to work. Or should I press function F? No.
No,
it doesn't work.
capital F. It has to be a capital.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice
Yep.
trick I learned today.
That's a
That's
fun
a nice
trick. Yeah, I
little
like
trick.
that one.
Everyone write that one down.
And so I will also create, let's say this is a video which I need to trigger. And let's say I have it here and plasma here. So you can create kind of like workflow, how you find it in Premiere. So I can save this as a preset. And if I want different timelines to work with, and let's say pillars only, and if I'm triggering, so I can save this as a second preset, and I can control alt one. Sorry, what is the command again? I can go to the preset right I want it. So I can do control 2, alt 1. Sorry, I think I saved it 2 times.
Just throw it out there real quick. Jarno, I'm butchering the name. Berkering says if you hit Shift F1, it becomes F11, F12. Yeah. So like Shift F becomes, now you get past 10. So
yeah, you can get past to 25, I guess. 25, 26. So this is a handy thing which you can, if you're working with a lot of timelines and for like a award show and you need to go to a particular timeline or a particular time frame of the event where you need to have a manual trigger or you need to manually view the timeline, you can preset accordingly for your show. But I think it's limited to 10 presets.
One little trick I did, because I'd have 80 AUX timelines or so, because I was VJing the dance parties and I'd have video clips to play on the LED wall, and I would just play them as AUX timelines on the fly. And I would put AUX timelines with nothing in them and just name them a series of dashes and use those as separators, so that I could see groups of AUX timelines. It just created a visual separation in clumps. Like I'd have, the main day's timelines, and then the next day's timelines, I'd go ahead and start working on them and just put a group of dashes.
That's when the older version of Watchout didn't have folder system for timelines, but then now it has a folder system where you can organize things together. So
very cool.
Even I used to do it, but after transitioning to the folder system, I can't go back to the old one. So like I said, I have backup inputs where I can import NDI on the same timeline. I can just copy paste the timelines and replace it with NDI inputs and work with the show. If I come to a problem with live input. So yeah.
So do we want to take a few questions?
Is there a time limit? Yeah.
Cool. Much earlier, Preston had asked, what do we like for a 10 gig NIC? Which I'm sure Jeff Keithley has some opinions on, one way or the other.
I think Jeff might have had to leave, though.
Oh, you know what? Yes, it does look like he had to roll out. Anybody on the panel have a preference for a 10 gig NIC?
I don't have any recommendations because I'm testing out, but I think a 10 gig managed switch is recommended. But there are some unmanaged cheap low budget switches, but I think NDI depends more on your managed network in order to manage all the VLANs and separate them out for your NDI. So I think I saw one in Netgear, which is based for AV line. I think the model number is M4250 or something, which has a number of CAT inputs and also fiber optic.
Maybe Bodhi, do you have any recommendations for a 10 gig NIC?
Yeah, so there's a couple out there. I know Jeff loves, like, I think who was it? Jonathan put in chat. Jeff always recommends the Microtech 328s. There are some Nighthawks, Linksys Nighthawks, that do 10 gig managed switches, which are phenomenal. Especially if you have to, which we all know you don't want to, but if you have to run anything wireless, they do have the lowest latency delay when it comes to wireless transmission. So they do make 10 gig managed switches. They do, I believe they're working on a 10 gig bus server as well, to where you can have up to 100 inputs on it. And that's going to be a Nighthawk model as well, and it's mainly obviously built for esports communications and stuff like that. But they are working on one of those as well. But I always recommend Nighthawk. They're great low latency switches, and they're very user friendly. The interfaces are easy to navigate and compile, and open ports, close ports when you need them, forward them if you have to. They're really easy to maintain.
Great, thanks, Chris. Jonah had asked, for main backup systems, do people usually run 2 production machines controlling main and backup servers, or 1 production machine controlling both main and backup servers?
1 production and 2 servers. So you can configure, I can show you. So stage has a tricky thing where you can add different tiers to it. So you can have a backup tier. You can do without tiers, but like say if you want to manage, one sec. So you can navigate between different tiers, and like say you have added your main display right here, where you have put a 2 display here, and like say you are putting another server, so we call this server. You can also name IP address as you can also name servers as a text, where you can do it with so here you can show, it will show you the server number with the computer name. You can right click and change your computer name for this particular show. So you can add like server 1 and
Yeah, and Dataton'S actually recommended people not to use IP addresses and to use names instead. Everything just tends to work better if you do computer names.
And you can just copy, go to a backup tier and paste, so it doesn't interfere with your main show. And you can call it 3 and 4, and you can go back to the base tier, and whatever media is displayed on your main LED wall will be displayed on your backup show as well. So if you when you go online, it triggers both the servers to output the same output, which is coordinated to their stage coordinates. So if your media file is running on this display, it will also run as a backup on your second server. So if you're having any problems or display problems when you're outputting to a Novastar J6 or N9, we usually use those. You can have a backup input from the next server and then immediately switched as a backup. I've never used it. I didn't have any problems using with one server. So when you configure the server properly, you can get rid of it. But if you're doubting on you should doubt, but it is good to have a backup. But you need another license separately for the backup server. So
I just want to jump in real quick and let everybody know we're about 5 minutes out from the wrap up. Real quick, Chuck. Before I go, I just have one question that I'm gonna ask live for here with Jonah was, and Dave, I'd love to have your response live. What is everyone's procedure as far as counting out videos? Seems like a very basic function that Watchout makes very difficult. Dave, I thought you had a great response to that. If you wanna repeat that, and then Chuck, we'll let you go.
Yeah, a couple of people put it on, and I tagged on our top Watchout guy did it. He made a video that had a count out and a little progress play out bar, and he would slap that in the AUX timeline with the video and have it right below the video so that he could see it in the stage whenever the videos would play. But then he'd do a virtual screen output and feed that out of another output into the multi-view. So everyone who had a multi-view could see the count out and the progress bar audio out. And so the lighting guy, we didn't have to count out anyone on comm anymore. They just all watched the count out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Chuck, you had something you wanted to add? I'm sorry.
I think it's the same thing. You're just taking an output into like your Novastar J6. I have 2 of the Novastar Pro HDs, and it would be the same thing. I would just be coming into one of my SDI inputs or something like that from a Watchout output. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we normally do is we capture all live inputs into Watchout and then send the final output to the J6 or N9 and then display it. But some people use Watchout just for displaying the 4K or 8K clips, which is hard to play it on another production machines. So they just use it for media purpose. But if you have capture card, you can use it as well with your live inputs. And have live inputs back on your Novastar as a backup, maybe for the multi display if you're working with layouts.
I got one more question. I think this is probably our final question as well. We still got 4 more minutes before we wrap everything up. But the last one here, and I think we touched on this, but I'll ask it again anyways, was from Jarno is, yes, I have a question. Why the specific codex? Can anybody answer that?
Watchout has a set of codecs recommended in their site, which and others codecs as well work, but it is not stable as what they recommend, as far as I know. But
yeah, the recommended codecs just reduce load. Yeah, they don't want to stress the machine, so they've certified certain codecs.
Using codecs like HAP, QuickTime will put stress on your GPU rather than your CPU, so it works find it works better if you have a good workstation GPU instead of a 390 or like say GTX cards. For Resolume, you can use GTX cards, but for Watchout, I recommend workstation grade cards like Quadro, WX 7100, 9100.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, so we still got about 3 more minutes left before we get into that little wrap up session I keep talking about. If anybody has a final question or something we haven't answered yet,
I do have a question, something that I haven't figured out
for the night.
Have you figured out a good way to do devamps for videos, where you have a video playing that's looping, and then it would stop looping and play out to an ending video? Something that's really easy to do on something like D3, but is like so hard on Watchout.
Yeah, I've recently I worked with the show where I need to play like 18 to 20 clips, which need to be on loop for a certain time, which need to be manual control or doesn't need to be on loop. I usually use AUX Timelines to separate them out and change it with, you can use a companion and go to the exact same queue for the video. So all the videos are laid out and have a pause queue for 1, 2, like I name the pause queues as A and B or 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can trigger companion, you can trigger the same queue on a different AUX timeline if you want to go to the video where it is not on loop. So you can use that. But I think there's a lot of ways, creative ways to program the show. It depends on your creativity, I think. Just like using Resolume or E2, have you used, I think I saw a recent video of Pyder using the mirror window. Someone posted an AVHK where you can use the same input as a, not as a separate layer, as a mirror screen to output a second window of the same input, right? So that was really interesting. Yeah.
For that vamp, I would do in the way we did all of our looping videos, we would have it loop free run. And you want to make sure that your clip in the AUX timeline is longer than the duration of the clip, because if you had it paused before it played through at least once, so we would stretch it out just a little bit, because the length of the clips in the timeline aren't necessarily tied to the length of the media. And so you stretch that out. Then I put a pause cue, and right before I would either fade it out, or if you're doing a vamp into something else, then I would do a pause cue. So it would play when it gets to the pause cue in the timeline, it would keep looping. But then when I hit play again on that AUX timeline, it would either fade out the opacity and then hit a cue that would jump it and reset it at the start of that clip so I could replay it again. Or if you wanted it to vamp out to something else, then I would have another clip on another layer. As soon as I hit play again, it would go past the pause cue and fade up the other clip, so opacity over it, and just play out that ending, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. It's just such a simple thing that other programs do so easily, and Watchout, it makes it a pain in the butt.
The nice thing about Watchout is you can copy that AUX timeline and just replace the media. Just drag and drop media into the same slots.
Yeah, you can program the entire show live, but it's very hard to do. So how I did was like I used a Novastar J6 to freeze. So there's a freeze button, right? So whenever a static screen is put up on the LED wall, I usually freeze, and if I'm doing any changes to my media, I go offline and online real quick, and then unfreeze again. So that's how I did that show, which was completely, I was programming the whole show live. I didn't have any time to sit or eat food. It was like a stand-in program show for me.
I've done a couple of shows like that. I put it in the Facebook comments that I put a PDS switcher on each output, so I could freeze the outputs and then make changes, or have a still that I could put up. Did you have a monitor between your Watchout output and the LED processor so that you knew when you went back online that it was actually outputting before you unfroze?
Yeah, I usually have a preview monitor, and so the interesting thing is I can go offline, and then if I want to freeze, I can freeze. Otherwise, I can just leave it offline. Whenever the next scene comes up, I can go, I can freeze and really quick go online. But it depends on your network switch. It needs to be 1 gigabit at least to have a seamless switch without a black, because when you go offline online, it usually pops up a black screen real quick without when you're switching from the modes. So so interesting thing is you can go offline and still the capture inputs will be on. So if there is a PPT going on with live inputs and presentation, you can go offline. The scene will still work. And when you need to shift to a different scene, the exact time you can trigger the online mode and then go back to the background or next scene right when you want it.
That's something cool about the architecture of Watchout is the production machine is just sending commands to the player machine. So it's not a lot of network traffic unless you're pushing new content from the production machine to the player machine. And if you go offline, the player machine just keeps doing what it was told to do last until you give it a different command. So if it's passing video from the input capture, it'll just keep passing it.
Yeah, often in my use cases, since I'm doing like long-term installations, not one-off shows with Watchout, that's what most of my work, we get rid of the production machine. Don't even use it. Once we got the show programmed, we take them away, and everything is run off the clusters, and it's run headless. And Watchout actually runs way more stable that way once you get rid of the production machine. And it's great. It works awesome.
Are you using WatchNet for that?
No, actually, we were using custom solutions. WatchNet works really great for that solution, though. For doing just Watchout clusters, WatchNet works really great.
Separate license for another license for WatchNet work, I think.
Well, if you have Watchout production license, it depends when you've got it, because some Watchout production licenses include a WatchNet license, and some of them don't. The licenses that I own personally include WatchNet licenses, so I can have one license for the production machine and switch it over to WatchNet if I want to.
Or you can just use Companion for
or use Companion, or like I did, we used custom solutions. We actually, there's an article, I said it was in Projection Light and Sound News, it was in Live Design. It's a 5-part article about the installation of Pips Island. They did one entire section on the video system. And for that show, we built a custom show control system because nothing existed in the wild that could handle the audio routing we had to do. And so this custom solution included Watchout control in the show control system.
Yeah, you can also program your own, if you know programming language, you can send commands through through a separate software if you built it. There is instructions in user guide if you want to create your own. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
So this is available free on the Watchout website, where you can program custom. If you're building for an installation, like say Rocco is doing a lot of installations, you can build your own cues and specific to that show.
Yeah, for when I was in tech for that show, I actually had Telnet on my phone, and I was connected to the wireless of the theater, of the events, the space, and I was actually sending commands through Telnet on my phone to control Watchout. It worked great.
All right, guys. So I just want to wrap up the show tonight. I want to thank you, Sriram, for being here with us. If you had any final words to say to the audience out there in Zoom or in Facebook, you know.
I know I've not gone through the basics a lot, but since I thought the audience would be interested for kind of new tricks and tips for Watchout for LED, I thought I didn't need to go over the basics, but we can have a whole separate show for this medias alone and timelines alone. I think, yeah, that's it.
That's perfect. So if the community is interested right now, start commenting in either the Zoom chats or start commenting on Facebook, and we'll schedule a date for that to come in and do a deep dive in that as well. You know, thank you for that. That'd be awesome. Obviously, I learned a lot watching this. I hope the viewers out there did. I know we didn't get as much questions as we were expecting, but honestly, I feel that when we get to these advanced parts and you get advanced users, a lot of guys are just watching to see how your signal flow is and how you're doing things.
Even I'm not advanced user, so I'm still learning to get into the lighting and audio part. So you can trigger DMX cues and audio cues from Watchout, which can be integrated, and you can record the DMX and play out from Watchout directly without having this thing. So even I'm into learning all that. So I guess it was hard for me to learn the Watchout because I didn't have prior knowledge on LED walls or what resolution we are working with since I started right away without knowing anything. So the right step to learn Watchout is LED processors, walls, projectors, and then get into media servers. Don't get right away and get stuck on it like I did.
I like it. So one of the comments I just read was, we didn't have questions because we don't know what we don't know. And I think you answered that very well with your insights into, you coming on board with us and talking about this. And I think it's right. Everybody's been in that boat where we didn't know something and they learned from somebody else. So everybody is saying eye-opening. Thank you. I appreciate you being out here. Thanks. Learned a lot. Some of the comments, thanks for everyone. Very eye-opening session. Please bring more content. You did a great job. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. Facebook, a couple of similar things. Thank you. Everything was great. So Ed, if you want to take us to the gallery view and close us up on this side.
Yeah. So thank you so much. This was great. I was actually just mostly listening and taking in everything. One of the things I did find, it's kind of bent up and chewed up, but when I took my Watchout, they gave us a mouse pad that had all the shortcut keys. Over at Show Sage in Chicago. That's where I took my training. So that's kind of what I've got. So I just realized I didn't spotlight myself for it, but hold on, so that the Facebook audience can kind of see that. But yeah, mine's been bent up a little bit. But yeah, this is a cool little thing they gave us. But yeah, no, thank you everybody from Facebook, from Zoom. Great questions, great discussions. Thank you to our panel. As always, Chris, why don't you tell us about what you have coming up on your stream real quick, and then I'll finish kind of taking us out in the next couple minutes.
Absolutely appreciate it, as always, for letting me use this platform to promote mine. I do stream over at Twitch. I am a game streamer. I do all types of games. Right now, I'm doing an auto chess game, which is actually pretty dope if you've never played them. They're strategy games. They kind of do... It's chess because of how you have to put your pieces, but it's strategy because you have to be able to combine the races of your clans in order to fight them. Just a little insight if you want to come check it out. Nerd stuff, you know how it goes. But the most important thing is everything I do on my Twitch is for the kids, everything. I have donation links in there for Extra Life to donate money to the local hospitals for everything. Bills, parents need help because they've been at the hospital because their kid's terminally ill. It helps pay their bills, helps with the cost of the services at the hospital and things of that nature. Also, anything donated personally through me, through my donate link, if you come into my chat and you were to type in !switch, it would send you to my personal dono page. My personal dono page, anything bought is to buy Nintendo Switches for the kids at my local hospital as well. It'll be kind of thank you. And if somebody were to buy one outright completely, be like, listen, I'm going to donate $250, I will donate it in your name to the local hospital as well. So just have that out there, anything like that. So I do greatly appreciate it. This was super informative as well. Actually, I'm going to look at getting Watchout certified. So this is super informative. I liked what you brought to the table and everything like that. So with that, again, we'll you are going to want to pay attention next week. Did just kind of confirm I'm going to be doing Discord talks next week. So I'm going to teach you guys about Discord and how it can be useful in your day-to-day operation instead of using Unity or ComTalk or whatever the other ones that you guys constantly go on about. I'm like, there's a free service that can do it right here, and it's on an app,
I use it for my music
and I
productions.
use it daily, like literally daily. I'm going to show you how to do that and set that up to where you can actually separate channels as well to talk to certain teams and just go all out on it. So with that, Ed, go ahead.
Chris, I agree with that. I use it for my VMix productions all day.
I've been trying to get these guys in the loop on it, and like they are hesitant and hard fought to be like.
I use it for my
Discord.
comms. I use it for bringing in remote speakers if I need to, and I use it for my esports production. A project which I'm working on it. So it's really
okay, guys. Do you understand why I bring this up? Like, I'm not. Listen, I might not be in your world with everything, but Discord has its use, and y'all need to start using it.
So just call up Chris when you guys want to set that up and pay him a day rate to get you all ready to
and,
go.
Hey, why not?
One more thing, which I need to say, like when you teach someone, you learn a lot by the process. So I learned when I was going through these PPTs and Watchout, I learned some of the things which I forgot and some of the things which I might have missed out in the past. And I also find some new bugs in Watchout. Which came across where, yeah, I didn't have anybody to teach me, so I learned it on my own way. So I suggest if you teach someone, you learn something new.
You just taught about 40 people tonight, so congratulations on that, man.
Thank you. It was my first experience.
Hey, Omar, do you want to just let us know what you have coming up Wednesday on the podcast?
I have nothing coming up. I haven't scheduled anything. I've been on a hiatus with my family, or my daughter and my partner, and I'm going out of town to Atlanta for New Year's, so I've been focusing on getting ready for that. Also kind of finishing up some last projects while I have time, so I don't have anything scheduled now, but give me 24 hours to lock something in, because it's really all it is locking people in the right dates. But I don't have anything lined up for sure, so just being honest, guys, there might not be anything. I'm trying to secure a couple things right now. But my focus is on my daughter right now and giving her a good New Year's out of town. So,
absolutely. Well, everybody can look for updates by checking the AV Educate Facebook page and the AV Educate groups. I just posted links to those in the chat on Facebook. I'll also put them in the chat here in Zoom. And then if you want to register to be an attendee on the webinar here in Zoom, that link is there as well. So that's the best way to get more information about what we have coming up. As we said, Bodhi's going to do Discord next week. In January 11th, we have the developer of Zoom OSC coming to do an episode. We got some other cool stuff planned for the rest of the month. We're going to try to get a more established calendar out further in advance so you guys know what topics are coming up. And we would love to know what you guys want to hear about. So please send us a message. Let us know if there's a specific piece of software, specific piece of hardware that we should be doing a deep dive on. If you want to get a little more information about Watchout, our own panelist, Rocco, do you want to tell us, I think you did an episode about Watchout. You want to just give us a quick little...
Yeah, I taught a masterclass on Watchout for a couple universities back in October. And to prep for it, I did an episode on my Twitch channel. So that VOD is still available, and Ed has the link and we'll post it. It's a 3-hour-long video that gets deeper into using geometry, how to do edge blending. It talks about how to use the different control schemes, how to use control cues, all kinds of weird stuff in it. But it starts off at the very basic. And, since I had more time, I was able to go pretty deep into it. But it was a fun episode, and I used actual Watchout hardware to do it. I have some watch packs that I own, some Generation 1 watch packs, which are really old, that I was able to show how they're used and stuff like that.
Great. And as always, I want to thank the DVE store for their continued support of AV Tech Talks. Guy Cochran and his team over there, they can help you with, they're super knowledgeable, can help you with any of the gear that you need. If you need a mix pre, if you need a Blackmagic camera, you need a PTZ, go to dvestore.com and they will definitely set you guys straight. So make sure you do that and tell them that you heard about them from AV Tech Talks. And with that, I want to have our gallery. Thank you guys for joining. We lost a few people who were a little busy today, had to jump off. But I hope, I'm looking at Nina, I'm hoping that you took something from today, and Brent and all the people who have used Watchout in the past. I guess I'm seeing shaking of heads. Yes. So Nina, you picked some stuff up today, you think?
Yeah, definitely. It's, going deeper than I had gone previously. So definitely interesting, especially knowing that I can test out and try out programming without having to have a license. So that's good to know.
Yeah. And Brent, you were a user. What'd you think about? Did you pick something up from today's lesson?
Oh, it's always good to learn new things. So I picked up a little bit. Yes, indeed.
Great. Rocco, thank you for all your input. Dave, you as well. Thank you guys so much for everything. I guess with that, we're only 2 minutes over. We're gonna really work on our hard out at 9 p.m. So with that, I want to say thank you to everybody on Facebook land. Let's give everybody a wave, and we'll see you next week. Next week will be January 4th. Come join us to learn about Discord, and who knows, maybe this is some foreshadowing that maybe there'll be an AV Tech Talks Discord. We'll find out. So
tune in next week.
Tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. And then again, thank you, Srikanth, for helping us, for coming and doing this. What time is it where you are, by the way?
Right when I started, it was 5:30 in the morning.
5:30 in the morning. So he's really pulling the midnight oil to give us a lesson on Watchout. So appreciate it so much. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Have a happy New Year. That's right. New Year's. Forgot all about that. It seems like perpetual holiday.
I hope everybody enjoyed the AV Educate Christmas present as well. So enjoy that. That's permanent now forever with Evolve Academy. 20% discount using the AV Educate code.
Oh, where do they have to go to see that? To the Facebook
You got to
page?
be a member of the group. It is posted on there. Be a member of the group. If you use the code for your discount, they will contact me and I'll verify whether you are a member of the group or not.
Right. So everybody who's still on right now, go to AV Educate's page and group. I posted those links already, and use the code for a discount with Evolve Media for
20%.
future training. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Good night.